Alright, welcome! So, probably couldn't hear me all that well last time. Like I said, we were working some of the kinks out, but now I bet you can hear me great. So, guess what? Welcome. It's me, Johnny, my giant orange couch. It's time for Couch Chats. The Deuce, number 2. And if you notice, I'm dressed a little bit nicer too because you always want to look good for your second impression. So, here we go. Tonight we're talking about gameplay versus narrative. The mechanics versus the story. Can they come together? Can they always have to fight? What's going on with all that? So, let's get this going. Basically, the thing is, every game struggles with this in one way or another. Some games succeed and really bring it together. Imagine this giant Venn diagram, 2 circles, gameplay, narrative, and occasionally you're going to find those games that are in the middle perfectly that actually have those two mesh so well that there's no clash. Generally speaking, there's always going to be some sort of clash, some sort of disconnect. For me, the biggest examples of this are something like Grand Theft Auto, where Nico's like, I do not want to go ahead and murder people anymore. I'm so sad about my life. I've come to Liberty City to change. And then you like run down like 1,000 people in the city. You know, it's like, oh my god, it's like you obviously don't want to change. Or more recently, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, or Far Cry 3's Jason Brody, where they're both like, oh my god, I just killed somebody, what am I gonna do? And then you like run, once again, just murder an island full of people. In both cases, 2 islands full of people. And in Far Cry 3, you're totally cool burning down a bunch of weed. You have this giant disconnect between what you're doing as the player and the narrative they're trying to tell. Your player agency gets in the way of the story being told. And it happens. It happens. We're used to it. We give it a pass because we're like, oh, the game is good, the mechanics are good, you know, the clashes with the story, it happens. And so you always have this constant battle between gameplay and narrative, and then the disconnect it creates. Sometimes, you know, we goes either way and we give it a pass. Racing games. I'm a big fan of Need for Speed. I've liked that series, especially since Criterion took over, because I really liked Burnout. But, if you rewind a bit, I really enjoyed, you know, guilty pleasure, really enjoyed Need for Speed Underground, especially the second one. Soundtrack was better. The point being, that had a paper-thin story, but no one gave a crap because the mechanics were sound. It was a good racer. Yeah, you could put, you know, crazy, you know, green neon lights underneath your car, and giant spinners, and be racing in a Hummer, because that makes sense. But who cares? The mechanics were solid. It was a good racing game. You had a good time with it. You enjoyed it. Who cared what the story was about, you know, retaking parts of the city and from these other street racers who had names like, you know, Slipknot. I don't even know. Who cares? Point being, the story was stupid. It was dumb, but the mechanics were good. On the flip side of that coin, you have games like, in my mind at least, games like Enslaved by Ninja Theory. Enslaved has mediocre mechanics at best. It's okay. But I found the story really cool. I enjoyed it. It was a nice modern take on Odyssey to the West. Fun stuff. It was in the future, destroyed city, and the environments told the story just as much as the narrative did, and it gave you a character that you didn't feel like you had to handhold. It was cool. I enjoyed it a lot. But if you based it purely on a mechanical perspective, it's okay, it wasn't great, whatever. And then you have these other games, like say Spec Ops The Line, came out, I guess it was maybe a little over a year ago, something like that. Spec Ops was fantastic. Or, it wanted to be. See, Spec Ops was trying to tell this very deep and engaging narrative, and wanted to show the player this different take on a war game. It took away your agency in certain situations to force you to do certain actions which were intended to make you think about the consequences of what you were doing. And frankly, it had a lot of good ideas. It was doing really well. But by the end of it, it still devolved into a simple third-person shooter that just sort of threw away what it was trying to tell you. And it's a shame, because that game should be played, mainly for what it was trying to do in this situation, what it was trying to make you think about, what it was trying to make the player engage with. But the fact is, that dissonance became so hard, so rough by the end of it, you would throw it out the window, and you were just shooting stuff. And any sort of thought that it wanted you to have was thrown right out the window. That's why you're going to see a lot of these big narrative driven games, especially the ones where the gameplay and the narrative work so well together, are these indie titles like Braid and Limbo, where it's these very small stories where the gameplay is integral to what's being told and what's going on, and the mechanics are integral to what's being told and what's going on. The original Portal could even fall in that category, where the gameplay and the narrative were so each tied together, like this is part of what's going on, and it didn't clash at all. The biggest offenders in these cases are shooters, because it's hard to really relate to a character who's a mass murderer. I love Nathan Drake. I want to be his best friend. I think he's awesome. But I really think it's very frightening how he can just crack wise and laugh and be the cocksure, amazing adventurer that he is after he's mowed down, like, I don't know, like 40 to 50 to 60 guys in an encounter. He's a massive body count 3 games in. I'm surprised I haven't seen him on the FBI's most wanted list anytime. It's kind of disturbing how much he enjoys just jumping around, shooting dudes, pulling them off ledges. It's the thing that he does now. 4 adventures, actually, if you count the Vita one. The point being, there's always going to be that little bit of a dissonance between the two unless it's really, really tried to, find ways to bring it together. Like I said, you see that coming together in indie games more often than not. Even games like Bioshock Infinite, which, if you listen to the Thinkcast, I love, and it's a fantastic game. It's wonderful. But even it falls prey to the fact that when it's all said and done, it's still a shooter, and that is how you interact with the world. And yes, they did give you a sort of narrative scapegoat for that. Won't go into too spoilers here, because we've already done that in the podcast, but it doesn't matter. You still feel confined by that, and how you relate to the world is still defined by that. Recently, the reviews for The Last of Us have gone up, and I'm hearing that we're looking at a 10 out of a 10 game here, and that basically it found that healthy balance that even when you have those encounters, they matter. The body count's not that high, and that's what gives it some gravitas. That's exciting. Honestly, that's what I want to see more of. I want less gaminess and more of working those mechanics into the narrative to where it makes sense. Because I think those are where the real amazing games are. When you're sitting there and you're just left in a world or in this adventure, and the mechanics don't get in the way of what the writers are trying to do. That might be just me in my opinion. I'm a big story guy. I know guys who will play Call of Duty for years and years and years till the next one comes out, or even beyond that, and they just play it on a pure mechanical level. I know friends of mine who play League of Legends, not for any sort of, I like the background of this character and I want to see what they're doing with the story. No, they play it on a purely mechanical thing. Look at StarCraft 2 players. It's nuts. It's pure mechanics at that point. Their fingers are wild. Look at these YouTube videos. It's crazy. Point being, people fall on either side. They want to go it's either mechanics or like narrative, and then if you're lucky, you get both in the same package. I guess what I'm trying to really talk about tonight, what I'm trying to say is, and ask, what matters to you? What do you think? I think in the next gen we're going to have a lot of opportunities to see how gameplay and narrative can come together in new and interesting ways. They have a lot more horsepower in these new systems, and it's not going to be that big of a graphical leap, so the obvious idea is it'll be mechanical upgrades, things they can do and create new experiences. And so here's hoping that we're going to get more of the center of that Venn diagram as opposed to falling more on one side or the other. But if you had to choose, what would it be? Would you rather have a mediocre to crappy game that has an amazing story, you'll sludge through and trudge through the bad gameplay mechanics just to see where the story goes? Or would you rather have a game that's mechanically sound but has like a paper-thin throwaway story? Or would you rather have some sort of like awkward middle ground, where it's like, oh, that's okay on either way, it's alright, it's a solid middle-of-the-road candidate? What matters to you? What do you think? Check out our comments section below. Seriously, drop us a line there. Go to gamerswhothink.wordpress.com. Leave a comment there if you like. You can find us on Twitter. You can also email us at gamerswhothink@gmail.com. You can put the subject line couch chat if you want to specifically mention it for this here. I really want to see what's coming through. I really want to know what you guys are thinking. I love the interaction. So please, swing by the website, let me know here what's going on, give us some views, share this with your friends. I want this to be a big conversation, not just me, talking to the interwebs. I do that all the time, and frankly, I find the internet rude. It's true. Nonetheless, seriously, share this around, link us, comment below, let me know what you're thinking. Anyways, thank you again for giving me the time in your living room, if you're watching this on your giant TV via some app, on your laptop, on your phone. Thank you so much. Seriously, give us a share. I'd appreciate the views. Have a great night. We'll talk again. The Orange Couch says goodnight, so do I. You should have a good one too.